I was thinking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and I was joking with the folks here that I'm not really quite sure anyone needs to be more aware of cybersecurity. It's in the news every day. Every organization is dealing with this, and I thought, it was important for us to maybe bring together some of our portfolio companies that are dealing with this on the front lines, providing incredible solutions for enterprises and other organizations to deal with what is an omnipresent threat of cybersecurity. And we're lucky today to have two guests with us. I'm going to start from left to right. I know Aviv, being Israeli, that doesn't make sense, but I'll start from left to right here and introduce Darren Guccione, CEO and founder of Keeper Security. And I will not spoil the surprise of Darren explaining Keeper and all the goodness around Keeper. I'll let you go quickly first, if that's okay. Darren, just talk a little bit about Keeper and the space it plays in.
Sure, this is Darren Guccione. Nice to see everybody today, and thanks for the intro. We make a cybersecurity platform for protecting individuals, families, and businesses from ransomware and the most common password-related data breaches. Over 80% of the time, when there's a data breach, it's a result of either weak password, security, credential, security, or secrets management. So we tie all that together, and we've built a platform for having pervasive protection against those attacks.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for making time in your schedule. I'm looking forward to hear on your perspective. On my right here, at least on my screen, is Aviv Cohen, who is CMO of portfolio company Pentera. Aviv, welcome, and thank you coming direct from Israel today. Tell us just a little bit about Pentera.
So nice to meet you, Darren and Gary. Pentera is, as you said, a portfolio company of Insight, about 150 employees strong and about 350 customers strong and growing very, very rapidly. What we do is actually test that your security works in a very automated way, like in one click, and enable people to understand what works, what doesn't every day of the year, and if something doesn't work, fix it ahead of the adversaries in time before any compromise or breach happens. That's it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, again, welcome and thank you. I'm going to start with you, Aviv. Pentera, penetration testing. What does that mean? Has it been around for a long time? And why should people care about your approach?
Well, I think Pentera represents an industrial revolution, so to speak, in something that the last piece in cybersecurity that was left 2 decades behind all the rest. When it comes to endpoint security, we have the latest machine learning and behavior analytics and all that good stuff really working at the front, while when it came to penetration testing and actually validating your security works, it remained a service done by different service bureaus, small to large, once a year on a part of your network. That actually meant that as you add more and more security, security professionals don't have the actually big picture to see how does it all come together and does it really work as a defense line, as an effective defense line. And testing that needs to happen with all the changes going on actually much more frequently than once a year. And therefore, not knowing if something works till bad things happen or not is really not a state people should be. Pentera came in to change that reality, enable, again, with one click, for people to know if their security works, to fix what needs fixing, and to do that without any skilled personnel. It's a real industrial revolution, so to speak. And I think it enables, it was a missing piece, I would say, was a missing piece in the technology stack of cybersecurity.
Awesome, thank you. So Darren, on your side, passwords have been around for a little while. The issue that you made, your statement that you made, that it is still today a major reason why we have major issues, major cyber incidents at organizations. Tell me just a little bit about your approach and how you look at protecting organizations through managing passwords.
Sure. So, I mean, there's a few things that we have, it's pervasive and it's existential. So if you look at just the total ecosystem and how, all of us have migrated to what we call enterprise cloud architecture, this has impacted individuals, families, businesses across every single segment. So if you're a small office, home office, an SMB, mid-market enterprise, even the public sector, all of us are using hundreds, if not a few thousand cloud-based applications. And then you say, okay, well, if you take that and you couple with that the migration to distributed remote work over the past 2 years, you have this catalytic exponential increase in the number of credentials, secrets, passwords, and endpoints that have to be protected. And when you look at the activity with respect to what the perimeter has become, and in essence, we've all become perimeter-less. The perimeter, even 3 years ago, has now been ill-defined and in essence has vaporized. How do you protect that, right? When you have this exponentially larger attack surface, how do you protect it? So we analyze what cyber criminals focus on, and what they focus on more than 80% of the time is the weak reused password or the stolen password, the stolen secret, or the credential that's not just inside the organization, but actually located on the dark web. And what most people don't realize throughout the organization is that the dark web now contains north of 20 billion stolen key pairs, what we call a stolen login credential, either a username, a password, or some other secret that can be utilized to target an organization. And what happens at the CISO level and throughout the IT departments is that if you ask them, do you have complete and total enterprise-wide visibility over the password, credential, and secrets management on everything, on every single smartphone, tablet, computer, and do you know if anything on the dark web is being used to target your enterprise? The answer to that question is 99.9% of the time, no, we do not know. And then if you say in turn, well, would you like to use a platform that can give you this type of visibility and control and security? They would say yes, right? So this is what we work really hard at creating, and this is why we've been so focused on it, is because it's such a huge problem. And it doesn't look like it's going away. It's actually, like I said, exponentially increasing.
So, it makes a lot of sense what both of you are talking about. And let's just, for a moment, chat about the CISO, because the CISO, whether or not they're making the decision on your individual product, are setting the tone for an organization. And, one of the things that we talk about is, there are a lot of cyber solutions, and cutting through the clutter for any organization is hard. But in cyber today, where everyone's talking about it and everyone has a solution and everyone's solving for it, how do you rise above this to be seen as strategic for a C-level technology person like a CISO? Darren, you want to start out?
Sure. So, just to add to what I said earlier, the perimeter is now, it's just amorphous. It's everywhere and it represents everything that we see in terms of an endpoint, where it's located. So where you could measure, something that was on-prem, now it's, let's just say, in your home. I don't know what network you're using or what your ISP is, but when you say, okay, we have 100,000 employees, what do we need to do? So, the role of the CISO in terms of what's changed is that there's a gaping visibility and a massive void in their ability to protect an organization from the modern pervasive cyber threat. And so when you look at this proliferation in terms of the number of applications that we all transact with every single day, the number of endpoints, and the fact that in identity and access management, when you look at the ecosystem of solutions that they have to manage, they're all disparate, right? So there's a separate PAM solution, there's a separate SSO, there's a separate, let's just say, Azure ADFS environment, right? The tech stacks are not unified and cohesive anymore. They're disaggregated. So the platform that we work on really hard here is, well, how do we take these different elements and sit in the center of that and pull it all together so that we can tie in that visibility, control, and security, right, with respect to the event monitoring and the insights that they need to have more ubiquity across their technology and identity stack. And that's really what CISOs are grappling with every single day.
Makes sense, Darren. Makes a lot of sense. Aviv, what about from your end? What are you hearing from your CISOs in terms of how it is that your solution is cutting through the clutter and becoming relevant to them?
So I want to answer that question twice. One, it doesn't, and I'm looking at our audience today, which is, mainly CMOs and marketing people. The CMO, I can say a lot of things about technology. They're just not going to listen. In my responses, I want to focus on things that are very pragmatic in terms of priority of the CMO. So I have here a little quote of Jerry Stowe Thomas, Chief Information Security at Apria Health, which we made a testimonial with, a customer testimonial with. And we asked him that question: how is this product that we do, automated security validation, strategic to you? And he said, the platform enables clear executive communication of cybersecurity risk and justification of process and technology investments. Okay, now it's not me saying it anymore. It's your fellow CISO saying it's strategic. Can we have a discussion? So I know that a lot of people, fear or don't have contact to the field, access. Sometimes, the customers, let's see the platform at work, depending what stage you are, and it's a lot of work to extract these testimonials, but they are priceless. And therefore, if one of the things is if you want to be strategic to the CISO, just have a few CISOs on record saying that you are, and that would get you there in the hardest but fastest route. The other point I'd like to make is that sometimes that is overrated altogether. Everyone's trying to reach the CISO. It's becoming impossible. It's tough. And so a lot of CISOs, and we can look at ourselves as CMO, someone wants to sell us an event. You tell them, okay, talk to my event guy. Like, I'm not making these decisions anymore. What's the decision? $20,000? Fine, talk to my event guy in that region and he'll make that decision. I delegate that. So a lot of technologies, some are super strategic, but some you need to talk to the right person. If it's operations, if it's risk, if it's identity, if it's privacy, if it's the CDO sometimes, it really is about not going after the CISO and sometimes not saying, okay, how strategic you are, but rather how effective you are in solving a use case. And if you do that well, you have the audience and someone would write you a check.
So I want to follow up with this is, me personally, I spend, every week talking to folks who are trying to market in this space. And so one thing that I've learned, it was like a really good comment that a CISO made to me. He says, you know what I hate? I hate when my CEO goes to play golf and comes back and says, my buddy who I'm playing golf with, you know what he told me? There is a threat out there that's called Threat X. And he said, you should probably make sure that we protect ourselves from that. And the CISO says, that is A, an insult that I wouldn't know about Threat X. And B, my job is to be paranoid. You can't make me any more paranoid by telling me there's this other thing out here. So this is a long way of me getting to this point, which says fear, uncertainty, and doubt has been a great tool in marketing for many years. Is it a mistake to use it in the cyberspace? Darren?
Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, interesting question. So we'll talk about marketing because I love marketing. I'm not.
I know that.
CMO
You're
here.
my favorite CEO marketer, Darren. Come on.
I love marketing, right? So here's what it comes down to. If you look at any product or service, there's only two ways to market. You either market based on vanity or on fear. Okay, so on vanity, these are the products that they make you better looking, they make you healthier, right? They're going to increase the quality of your life, right? Those are the, great shampoo products or facial creams. Awesome. We love all that stuff. Great. But then there's the fear products, like if you don't buy this type of insurance and your house is hit by a tornado, you're in real deep trouble, right? If you don't buy E&O insurance, this is what could happen. If you don't buy this type of cybersecurity solution or you don't run pen testing, then a cyber criminal is coming for you and they could do irreparable damage to your business. That's selling on fear. So when you say fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you're basically tapping into the anxieties that CISOs are dealing with every single day. And I will tell you that the ones that I speak with regularly, this is a common thread that we see all the time, is that the level of anxiety is increasing because of the mass proliferation and adoption of cloud architectures and cloud applications. If I ask an individual 3 years ago, how many passwords do you have to authenticate with or use or transact with on a daily basis? Let's just say once a month. They'll say 20. And today, there's literally 4 times the amount on average in a user's vault. So today I can tell you that in my vault, I have over 1,000 passwords, credentials. I've got metadata. I have sensitive files, right? I've got all of these digital assets that are constantly under attack and desirous by the cyber criminal schemes out there. And now you've got the ransomware as a service that's evolving. You've got 25, RAS cartels that are dominating the dark web and making billions of dollars a year. So I think that, unfortunately, the positioning for cyber, needs to be two things. And there's a dichotomy between having multiple GTMs, which we have as a company, okay? If you look at a consumer with respect to security, they care about convenience first and security second. This is what we see in terms of human behavior. They want products and services that are easy to use and also are going to make them secure. When you move upstream into the mid-market enterprise and public sector, that dichotomy shifts. There's a paradigm shift. They care first about security and then they care about convenience. So I think if you're a cybersecurity vendor, it's extremely important to work on unifying those two things, because traditionally there's been an inverse relationship between products that are easy to use and hyper secure. The more secure something is, the more difficult it is to use. And if that's the case, how do you get full enterprise-wide adoption of your solution if it's difficult to use? So this forces the vendors, this is what we put a lot of time into this, is simplifying the living heck, not out of just the product, but the messaging. Making the messaging very clear and understanding that when you market to different GTM segments, whether you're talking to a SOHO or an SMB or an enterprise, you cannot say the same thing to each of them. They buy for different reasons. And I know that's sort of difficult for a lot of people to comprehend, but it is the absolute truth. They buy for different reasons.
And I think I think your point about the difference between a consumer and a consumer security solution and how they look at it versus a B2B level, grade security solution, what they care about, and then breaking down all the pieces in there and the differences, right, get you to understand, you definitely need to dig into your market a whole lot more to be able to get those understandings so that you're not talking to the wind, but actually communicating in a meaningful way. So that is something that, resonates with me quite a bit, Darren. What about you, Aviv, just in terms of FUD and how the market likes to hear about that?
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that whatever scare tactics, ambulance chasing, oh, dear CISO, you've just been breached. Had you, deployed my product a month ago, you would have been okay now. All of these things do not really work. And Darren, you said it's either, people are moved by fear or vanity. And I wanted to show here perhaps a different operating system. I call it the respect operating system. So we have this series of cartoons. This was our previous name. It's called Cybertoon. Our previous name was Proactive Cyber Systems. As said, we're now Pentera. And it's Parents' Day, and the guy, completely underappreciated, like you said with the golf analogy, protects things from burning down, respond in minutes notice to prevent a crisis. And my life is basically a constant fire drill. And the kid says, is your dad a firefighter? No, he's a CISO. So not only that not many cyber marketeers draw a picture like this, but not many just pay respect to begin with. And when a message of respect, appreciation, I would say even honor hits someone's desk, it says, what? Who drew what? This company? I've never heard of it. What does it do? And I think the entire challenge as we are marketing to people is to penetrate that noise. We have, 3,500, maybe 4,000 security companies talking to one person saying, buy me, in order to prevent or detect or block or handle the next cybersecurity crisis. And everyone has a great explanation. So it's like 100 people shouting their name, instantly to someone's ear. It's just saturating. I think that to market to people, you need to get in a unique type of way. So respect is one. And I'll show you like another one is actually kind of sympathy. This is the cybersecurity conference with Aretha Franklin kind of finishing the sentence of, just a little bit of respect and a little bit of like laughing together about basically what they're going to inherit to their successors, more and more attack surface like in here, or just talking to their favorite Lord of the Rings with just a cybersecurity twist. So I'm just showing a few examples, but that, and I'll stop sharing, that's really how we can get to these people in a different voice, in a genuine voice, because whether it's, again, fear is, I think, a no-no, but in all the other approaches, you kind of get to the same basis. And Gary, if you like it, one more thing apart from that, with all this messy landscape of technology, the CISO has to pigeonhole stuff to keep sane. So you say, okay, what are you doing? Endpoint protection. You go here. You go here. You go here. One of the common mistakes is I'm doing this and that and the other and a little bit of that. I have many feathers. That's like, okay. Next. The thing is to pick one feather in order to penetrate with one message and then expand if you do a little bit more. That's a choice that a CMO or a marketer needs to make.
So I like those points. I love those cartoons. but I ask this question, securing an organization is serious business. Is it okay for us to make fun of it? Is it okay for us to laugh?
So again, it's part of the approach to draw awareness and attention and to start there. Immediately after that point, you need to be very specific, serious, technical, and show and dress for the occasion in terms of a legitimate company and not, let's say, some rising startup that has a nice prototype about something. A lot of investment needs to be put, like, disproportionately in the visual identity of your organization, even if you're a 20-person organization. Your website needs to look like the website of, let's say, a CrowdStrike. Maybe not all the pages, but in terms of quality, in terms of how crisp it is, in terms of the finesse. Because today, if you don't do that, people log in and say, they're not in prime time. It's experimental. Go to the CTO lab or something like that. You can't get through and get sales done. So yeah, the entertainment, marketing as a form of entertainment is a good thing to draw attention of someone that doesn't have a brand. And then immediately after that, you need to show the serious face at the most professional way.
So Darren, what about the tone that your company takes about addressing the problem? How serious does it need to be all the time? Can you be clever? Like what's okay? And I'm talking more on the B2B side right now than the B2C side.
I think for positioning, I mean, we've always, I think, just taken just the concept that you have to really understand, like, what does your brand mean? Like, what are you trying to project? And I think that it starts with branding, because that's, I think CrowdStrike, instead of CrowdStrike, I'm going to talk about SentinelOne. It's a great Insight portfolio company, great endpoint security. But I would say that the branding is where it starts, because it's a value system, right? So what do we represent? We take security seriously, right? First, to do zero trust, patents on zero knowledge security architecture, really understanding like where the pain points are and what we need to do to address them. Visually, if you move to any aspect of our product, like we just presented at GITEC Summit, which was in Dubai. I just returned from there yesterday. But we try to be serious, modern, empathetic, compassionate, understanding. I think a lot of the organizations, when they come to our booth, they know what cybersecurity sort of is, and I'm talking about an SMB or a mid-market organization. All the larger enterprises, yes, they get it. They have formal IT budgets. But if you look at the primary attack surface for cyber criminals, the SOHOs and SMBs, which represent 80% of the global GDP and 92% of the global employment base, they're the ones under extreme attack constantly. And you don't really hear about them too much in the news. Why? Because the ransoms that are paid are somewhere between $1 and, let's just say, $200,000. They range, okay? We hear about the ransoms that are in the tens of billions of dollars. Those are what make the headlines. So for us, we try to listen more than we talk. I think it's really important to listen to what your customers' pains are, and then building out your messaging, of course, the product itself, to address those unmet needs, right? And for us, you hear about the premise of visibility issues, right? As this continues to proliferate, we need to close the gaps on visibility. We need to close the gaps on the perimeterless environment that we're in, and take that seriously. So when I say, look, you sell on fear, we sell a solution that bolsters security, that prevents an organization from being hit with a ransomware attack or one of the most common cyber attacks, and being solution focused, right? And what's the net of that? The net of that is that your fear and anxiety of a cyber attack is going to be abated. And that's the ultimate result, because great marketing should always create an emotional response with the individual that is reading your message. Like, that is exactly what I need. Like, if I'm looking at something that Aviv's shown on the screen, right? He has a very colorful way of presenting a message. I think it's pretty cool, actually. I like illustrations and art. I would say, you know, or JFrog, they have some amazing t-shirts, right? You look at just the messaging, they're creating an emotional response with the recipient. I think that's really important, because that could be the difference between you getting the demo and not getting the demo, or you having that first initial discussion to talk through discovery and understand where their pain is, and not getting that. So that's how I view it.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple ways of getting there, of cutting through the clutter, of being known, of understanding your tone. I totally appreciate the different sort of angles. And I guess one of the other areas I think about all the time is what I call the lexicon. You know, your language to talk about it that's uniquely owned. Some of that lexicon is your category name. There's no area, the more so than cyber, that has more category names, and there's language and trademarked items that you want to be able to have as your language. How is that sort of trademarking of language and of your lexicon play in your ability to communicate with your target market? Darren?
I mean, look, we thought, you know, long and hard. We have a tagline that says cybersecurity starts here. And the reason we came up with that was because when we analyzed why these attacks were occurring, more than 80% of the time, they're a result of weak password security, credentials, or controls around those things. And so when you say, okay, we'll take it a step further, we could have said cybersecurity starts with password security, because we believe it does, okay? So we said, well, this is what we create. So we took it a step further and said cybersecurity starts here. If you're a small business and somebody comes to us and says, look, I only have a fixed amount of money I could spend and I could only afford one product, right? I would objectively, it's hard for me to say this as the CEO of the company, but objectively I could say, well, if you want to mitigate your risk of an attack by 80%, you can start here. You can start with this product. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get endpoint security. You should have, you know, SentinelOne running on all of your endpoints. I'm not saying you shouldn't get some of the other products out there, but if you could only afford one, right? Our idea around marketing was, how do we make that very clear? And then with respect to trademark registration, we're big believers in IP protection. So, you know, we're big on patents. I think that it's important to patent your solutions, to you know, put a stake in the ground and say, look, we own this IP. This was born and raised here, and this is what we do as a company. So with respect to zero trust, zero knowledge, we've been doing that since 2000, right? And 2009 is when we, you know, filed our first patents. But yeah, I just think that it's important to understand, you know, what does your brand represent? You know, can you assert a tagline to it? And if so, I think you should register the trademark for it.
Excellent. So Aviv, I know I've been involved, you know, a lot of work has been done in creating and launching Pentera and creating a category and being able to, you know, have language. Tell me just a little bit about how you're viewing that part in the overall role within marketing.
So I'd like to answer that, but first I'd like to show like a minute of the rollout of that category and then speak to that. Is that okay?
All good. Everyone likes a good show.
Imagine a single platform that with a click of a button unfolds your true current security exposure. Imagine a single platform that can test everything. Imagine.
It's almost like magic. It reminds people of the first time they drove a Tesla without hands on the wheel. The key here is automation.
with the goal of becoming ransomware ready.
Pentera truly challenges the defense systems like an adversary.
Pentera identifies breach points, not just vulnerabilities.
Finally, I would like to announce the first ransomware emulation framework. Let's surgically remediate to stop attacks. And hopefully, let's sleep better at night.
Pentera's mission is to validate your entire security stack, whether it is servers and workstations, applications or infrastructure, internet-facing or corporate assets, you name it. Pentera will test it.
So I'm looking at that as some of the crisp messages. I think when it comes to the category and finding that white space where you, if it's a service, a technology, whatever, is really important, because you can stay there for a while. I'd like to say that a common mistake, and by the way, Darren, I really liked your positioning there. Common mistake first to avoid is to change your message of the month. As much as we'd like one campaign that would make us famous, it takes like drops of rain till you get the ground wet. And if that rain is here and there and everywhere, eventually the message does not penetrate to consciousness of your target group. So, and in order to stay consistent, you need to find a message that's really close to your core competence, and you're going to stay in that category, in that space, and hopefully with time dominate. So one of the things is that a category helps you to stay consistent in your unique. And irrespective of that, all of our competitors, 1 month after launch, changed their website to the same because we're the leader of the pack, but you don't need to change. You don't need to get nervous about that. It's just, they're going to keep changing because they don't, sometimes you think that the message change is the remedy, but it's not. The position and the category is anchored in so many things that eventually it becomes like your competitive advantage. So I do believe that staying consistent is a big part of making the category. The other thing is about making communication really simple. And a lot of marketing people get pressure. Well, that's not strategic enough. And that's, well, would it work? Would it not work? Simplicity works. Again, when you talk about a saturated market, when you talk about noise, you need like this one sound rather than more noise. And I think that work about a category. In our case, it's automated security validation. Helps people say, okay, I need to validate my security. It's plain English, and these guys would do it automatically, and everything that comes with that, without involvement of manpower, can do it continuous. That's fine. Automation is, it's called in security the A word. It's definitely a bestseller. Everyone wants automation and less personnel. So to answer your question, I think that time spent in searching the category, implementing it, is time well spent. And although sometimes it seems that it's a lot of work and it's just words, I think in the long term, it really pays out very well.
So I think, it's interesting about, you were mentioning about the importance of consistency and of, being out there to create a brand in the market. One of the areas where brand building goes on and has gone on in B2B marketing for years has been in the event space, the live event space. We are hopefully exiting, this period of intense COVID restriction. Things will start opening up. I might actually get over to Israel, Aviv, and eventually actually meet you in person. But what is your take about the role of live events in building your brand, building your presence moving forward? What do you think? What are you expecting to see? What are you planning on doing? Aviv, what is your thoughts?
So I want to say that this past year, we learned a lot about virtual events, from rum tasting to guest shows and virtual effects. And I think they're making a virtual event still work is going to stay with us for a while, because people kind of said, okay, if it's not super important, I can stay at home. So physical events, we're talking about actually physical and virtual, and we're talking about hybrid events in the foreseeable future, and that's an art by itself. But I have to say that we've been, by the door waiting for the physical events to come back, and first mover into those physical events, because there is no replacement to person-on-person talk, person asking questions, show and tell in terms of the demo, like in that environment. And also I have to say in the events advantage that people go in because they have a packed agenda, especially CISOs and executives, and they get to meet a lot. It's like a meeting place more than it's an event. It's a meeting place, and you want to be that because it's really easy to get a physical meeting, 5 minutes at the demo station, come see you at the booth, because he's already there. For him, it's like a small incremental effort. Okay, I'll come visit. Versus, even a webinar is an hour. So I do spend, I would say, half between digital and events, and I'm not giving out on events. And both digital and events can be boring, empty booth, empty webinar, or an amazing build-up, an amazing show, doesn't matter or not, and an amazing follow-up that makes sense. So physical events are part of our future as marketeers.
What about you, Darren? How are you guys looking at your live event future? Will I get to meet you in person?
Absolutely.
He came from Dubai.
Yeah.
He kind of said it all.
Yeah, bullish. So I agree with everything Aviv said. Look, we did 22 trade shows in 2019, all physical events, of course, globally. And then we hit the pandemic. Everything just, the rheostat went to zero at that point. And now we're just cranking things back up. So if we have an opportunity to go in person, we're going. I mean, it's that simple. So, GITEX Dubai, there were over 80,000 people there. So it was, post-pandemic, I think the largest technology show globally. And I would say, look, I mean, we're humans. We're designed and created to engage with each other, right? In a physical, wonderful space. First day, I shouldn't be talking about things like this, but like just the first day of the show, we had north of 80 leads. That's the first day. Now, if that show had been virtual, people get distracted, they're on video, their cat jumps up on the table, who knows, right? So I just think that as soon as we can go physical, we're there. And we've already started that. So for example, through the end of the year, I think we have 3 or 4 additional, physical in-person shows. We have a few hybrid, but yeah, we're showcasing our technology at those events.
So clearly a lot has changed in the last 2 years, for all of us, marketers, cybersecurity. It doesn't matter what space you're looking at, there's been changes. But, in the next few years, there's going to be more change. And there's going to be different ways of connecting with people. There are going to be different threats. If both as a business decision maker and as well as folks providing security for these businesses, what should people be thinking about in the next few years in terms of the threat landscape, or what they're protecting against, or what they should be concerned about? Darren?
Yeah, so look, I know I've illuminated a lot about credentials and secrets management, passwords, the like. What we do here is this company is led by 2 fanatical product and customer-centric co-founders. So I don't guess where the market's going to be in 3 years. I don't really know, but I know where I think the hockey puck's going to be in 2 years because our product roadmap is saturated for the next 2 years. The way that we do that is by engaging with CISOs, IT directors, InfoSec, SecOps, DevOps, right? We are on those calls to figure out, like, where are the pain points? Where are the gaps in their organization, right? And then we figure out, okay, can we build something that's zero trust, zero knowledge, and going to identify with the mass use case in this market segment? If we can do that, then it's built into the product roadmap. And then it's a function of us, okay, prioritizing what needs to come first. Is this a condition precedent type of feature to something larger? But in terms of like where things are headed, it's simply a function of engaging with customers and prospective customers and understanding where the unmet needs are based on the technology that you create or what you think you could expand into based on the platform you've created, and going in that direction so that you're not really pushing the company, you're actually being pulled by the market. And being pulled by the market is a lot better than trying to figure out, like, am I guessing something correctly, right? And so
what does that mean? Like, what is it like, I agree with you. I'd rather be pulled by the market than guess as well. But there's so much noise. How are you figuring out where to place your bets?
It's very simple. So there's, look, and I may be totally wrong on this, but this is how I do it, and it works. I think if you are supremely focused on fulfilling the unmet needs of your customer base and target market, then you don't have to worry so much about what your competitors are doing per se, right? Because in our landscape, the total addressable market is far superior than the collective market penetration of our constituents in the industry. That is not the focus. The focus is, okay, this total addressable market is north of 400 million potential accounts. How do we help them, right, get protected from these cyber criminal groups? How do we do that at scale? And that is really what the focus is. It's not so much, oh, well, this competitor A is doing this and B is doing that. Oh my goodness, we better do what A and B are doing. No, that's not what we focus on. We start first and say, what do we need to do to fulfill the unmet needs of this target market? If we deliver that at speed and with elegance, then the revenue will come. That's just the way that we've been looking at it, and it's working. Right? So am I going to say that we don't look at all what competitors are doing? Of course we do. We have product managers that do that. And that's a good litmus test for us. Oh, that's interesting. They launched this. Okay, well, we have this coming out. It's a bit different. Here's why we're doing it. So I think, there's no silver bullet, but I think at the end of the day, if somebody said, well, what's the ultimate answer and your only answer? My only answer would be fanatical about identifying the unmet needs and pain points of your target market and focus on delivering those at speed. Because speed is the key right now. If you deliver like being first is so important, right? Because there's only two other ways to get ahead. You either cheat or you say you're smarter than someone else. And we don't cheat. And I like to think we're pretty smart here, but there's some really smart people in this industry. So I prefer to be first. So that's what we try to do.
That's awesome. Aviv, how are you thinking about the future here?
So I want to say again, first of all, the stream of breaches is just increasing, and I think awareness, a lot of, a byproduct of all this disaster. And people are thinking about the Cloud-mageddon and a ransom-mageddon. And, as some of these breaches are really, really significant and impact society, like the Colonial. I think a lot of the work is being done for us in terms of awareness. Now, when it comes to security in general, I think there are three trends that we should relate to, irrespective of a specific technology. It's the need for automation, the move to the cloud, and the market of managed security services. All of them are major trends we need to look into as markets and opportunities. From a marketing perspective, I don't think there's any good news. It's just becoming more saturated, and irrespective of the channels and all of that, you need to find a good way of marketing operations, marketing outreach, and that I see as the trends in marketing is doing integrated marketing. The physical and virtual, social, and putting it together in integrated campaigns, this new role in marketing of an integrated campaign manager, I see it as part of the future. Second is content. Content remains king. It's just hard to make quality content. The fluff content is just out. Don't talk about the obvious. Ransomware is bad. Attacks are on the rise. Fine. Don't waste my time. You have a problem. You're meeting a need, like Darren said. Write just about that, including the technical, the different levels for the different buyers, and use that content. I think that's not going to change. And last is community and brand. If you're just doing the tech talk, if you're just doing your message, and you're not slowly developing your brand, there's going to be a ceiling for that because others are. And there's so much to know, and people eventually are attracted to the brand, to the popular vote, to where they feel safer. And a lot of, especially when you reach that scale up, from startup, you reach the scale up stage, the brand has to be there in the years to come. You just can't just operate on account of, let's say, just blocking and tackle lead generation and sales and some field work. You need to climb to the next level.
Well, I want to thank both of you. The time went super quick. I have more questions, but I think I'll save those for another time. Aviv, Darren, again, really appreciate your generosity of time. Really appreciate your just incredibly insightful ideas and responses and views of what is, a fascinating market. And Insight, as you know, places a lot of bets within the cyberspace. And, I think both of you have leading companies that are, driving impact every day. And we know that. And so thank you for that. And again, appreciate it. And for all of you who joined, thank you. Christina, do you have any wrap up for us?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. To recap, we will be sending this recording out to you all via email by the end of the day. And we're really excited to celebrate Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And this month's newsletter will be featuring this recording as well as some other resources. So take a look for and keep a lookout for that big spotlight. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Aviv. Thanks, Gary. Christina,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Darren.
Bye, everybody.